This is the Snackable Jiri Podcast.
Welcome to the Snackable Jiri Podcast, Episode 2 by Zen Review. In this lesson, we will be covering answer prediction for sentence completion, followed by an example. We'll wrap up with our word of the day. One of the most useful tools on the Jiri sentence completion is to predict answers before looking at the answer choices. When I say predict, I don't mean predict exactly what a Jiri answer choice will be. That would be too taxing and take too long. What this means is that you will want to think of a good enough word. This is usually a simplified version of what the real answer will be. You want to spend up to 10 seconds on this step and move on. If you can't think of a good enough word, then note down whether you think the blank should be generally positive or negative, or if there's any other general impression you're getting from the blank, like something's about someone being mad. You might be wondering if this is really worth the time and if this is really the best practice when you could just look at the answers first. Well, yes. Yes, it is. And here's why. One of the main reasons we do this is to avoid tricks, traps, or distractions manufactured in the answer choices. This is usually a close but no cigar answer choice, which is the second best one used to fool you. This is the type of answer that you can reason yourself into believing because it is so close and possibly partially true. The test writers also put in tempting answer choices that sound good but aren't backed up by the passage. When you predict first, you will realize that those answers don't align with your personal answer, so you won't be fooled. Another reason why we predict is because it forces us to focus on the sentence. Without the safety net of curated answer choices, we need to develop our reading comprehension skills. You will start to notice the nuances in the sentences, spot patterns, and fully understand the relationships within the sentence structure because you have to in order to predict. You will learn to pay attention to the sentence tone, since tone is one of the aspects you're reading for as your brain works out a word prediction. This improves your accuracy both on the current example and for future problems, since it builds those reading and logical problem-solving skills. Finally, this method should save you time as well. When you've already made a prediction, you will notice several choices that don't make any sense and can be eliminated quickly. If you go through all 5 choices, essentially starting from scratch, giving each of the 5 equal vitality, then you will spend a long time analyzing all the choices when you don't need to. Okay, so let's look at an example. Because the politician was usually so blank, her sudden display of open hostility during the debate was startling. So let's try to predict before we look at the answer choices. As we read this, we notice the major clue words of sudden hostility. The sudden hostility speaks to a contrast. Therefore, the blank should be the opposite of someone who is hostile. So let's say friendly, perhaps. Write friendly down on your notes. If you don't get that far to a good enough word, you can at least note that the blank should be something positive, since hostile sounds negative. Look at the answer choices now that we have a prediction. So the 5 choices are A, belligerent, B, affable, C, taciturn, D, confrontational, and E, hospitable. My first impression is that belligerent and confrontational are immediately out because they are negative, and more specifically, they're synonyms of hostile, whereas we need the exact opposite. If 2 choices are close enough of synonyms, by the way, then they can't be right, so they're likely both wrong. Taciturn is more of a left field answer choice. It's neutral, meaning someone who speaks little, which isn't very relevant to the blank. Get rid of it. That leaves us with affable and hospitable, which both sound kind of positive, and they might be considered weak synonyms of each other. These are the right answer and the almost right answer, so we need to dig deeper to differentiate between the two. Actually, both kind of mean friendly, but not exactly in the same way. Hospitable means being friendly or welcoming to guests or strangers. Affable means a friendly disposition. In this context of the sentence, referring to a political debate, there's no indication that being warm or friendly to strangers is really relevant. Most likely, if they're debating, they're not strangers, so this doesn't make much sense. The display of hostility in a debate setting would be in contrast to a friendly demeanor, however. Therefore, that is a very strong answer choice, and the answer is affable, meaning that friendly demeanor. Now it's time for our word of the day. The word today is acrimonious. Acrimonious refers to something that is angry or bitter, something filled with deep resentment or nasty speech. Other close synonyms are caustic and belligerent. So let's use acrimonious in a sentence. This one is a real example from an LA Times news article. Taylor Swift won an acrimonious battle to perform her old songs live at the American Music Awards. It may be a sign that she's winning the PR war over her catalog as well. You can read into this example how acrimonious is one of those fighting words. She won an acrimonious battle. She's winning the war. Battles, wars, things that one has to fight to win and are often not pretty. That's the context you might hear when you think of acrimonious. This describes a bitter feud filled with scathing, caustic exchanges between people who are probably angry with each other. They dislike each other. That's acrimonious. Okay, that does it for today. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next lesson.